Morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at 6937 Southeast 112th Avenue here in Portland. At the rear of the home, we're checking the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is running. We're at the base of the cleanout where we're going to zero out, and off we go. Just swapped over to 6-inch concrete pipe. All right, that appears to be the main there at 150 feet. We're going to go try and locate that here while the line drains. Alrighty, I'm picking up a weak signal out in the street right now, out on, here I got my lights put away, out on Southeast 112th. Line appears to shoot out the back. This says you face the front of the house from the street. Line goes out the back of the home, wraps around the right side of the house, and then shoots off to the street. And I did see a city green paint marking there to the right of the driveway, and that's lining up fairly well with where my locates are out in the street. However, my locate out there, partially due to the depth of the line, it's quite deep at that point. At 150 feet out, you're way down there. Also, it's an extremely busy road. It's hard to spend a lot of time sitting out there. Now, my foot counter appears to be being kind of funny right now. It doesn't want to count backwards, but what I'm going to do here, we still have a little bit of water trickling off. I'm going to pull back to the transition joint from cast iron to concrete, where I hopefully have a little bit easier time locating. That typically happens at the street edge. And in Multnomah County, from curb to curb, you don't have a traditional curb out here on this road or sidewalk, but generally face of curb, or basically the street edge to edge, falls into city responsibility. Not this concrete pipe isn't functioning. It's flowing very nicely. And it's held up quite well too. It's in good shape for its age. Alright, I'm gonna see if I can get a signal here. Alright, so still having a bit of a time here locating. I am picking up a decent signal though. It looks like the transition here, based on my signal there, is at the right of way, not the street edge. And again, the concrete pipe going all the way to the road is not stuff I'd recommend fixes on anyway. The hard part here is you've got overhead power lines, and combined with a deep line, cast iron especially shields the locate signal quite effectively. Sometimes interference coming off of power lines and utilities can mimic the signal coming off the camera head, and the locator can sometimes have an easier time latching on to that because it's an open air versus what's, you know, potentially 7, 8, 9 feet deep under the ground. So I'm going to pull back here again about another 15 feet or so and try and get a locate signal. So very, very minor standing water. That is so minor it's not even going on my report. That's like a 1/16 of an inch out of whack there. Extremely minor. All right, so all my locates I've got so far were indeed my camera head and not the power lines. So the only thing that made me question that was the city marking out there, which if you go and stand in the street face back of the house near the driveway area, you'll see a green line or paint marking. It's probably about 4 feet or so, 5 feet to the right of the driveway where the driveway meets the street, downhill from the driveway, where the line is actually crossing into the street. That marking's off by a little bit, is about 3 to 4 feet uphill from where that marking is at. The line runs down, if not just under the right side edge of the driveway, just barely adjacent to it in the dirt area. I don't think it even potentially goes under any driveway until getting out near the roadway, just so you have an idea. In fact, you've got 2 green Rainbird, what look like sprinkler heads off the front right corner of the house. One is closer to the home than the other. When I took that locate there and stare back at the house, I'm lining up almost perfectly with the sprinkler head that is closest to the house. That gives you kind of an idea. So another belly here. So that one at its worst point just barely hit an inch of standing water. And by the way, where I just got that successful locate signal, I did heel-to-toe steps here. About 36 feet in from the street edge is where I got that signal that came in nice and clear. So you do have some build up in the line here. So here's my 2 cents on, and we'll see how the rest of the standing water shakes out here as we start coming back in. These longer lines like this, especially when you've got this kind of setup, it's a long line. You can tell that the line is going under quite a lot of earth, very tight tolerances. So if you were to build this house nowadays, the line would not go out the back and wrap around the house. It would go straight out the front and be about half to a third the length. So considering all the things this has working against it, my experience after doing almost 25,000 scopes at this point, lines that are this length are very prone to having standing water, and I tend to treat them a little bit differently than the average sewer line because of the propensity for that. I'm a little more gentle on them, and typically speaking, most bellies, in my experience, typically start causing problems when they're very close proximity into the home. So given where that one was at there, in fact, I'm going to go do one more locate here just to see where we're currently at. So right now we are currently sitting underneath the concrete pad on the right side of the house where the kind of little shop shed area is. We are pretty much smack dab mid-span up the side of the house right now, about halfway between the front right corner and back right corner. So that belly's out there ways too. It's probably something, and I can go back and review the video and get a pretty decent guesstimate on the footage that is, but that's just looking at things probably 80 feet or more, 90 feet from the house. At those distances, in a 4-inch line like this, which is a pretty large diameter pipe, generally speaking, you're going to get things acting up under more abusive scenarios where wipes, paper towels, balled up toilet paper, things like that go down the line. By and large, most of the line is clean. In fact, the top of the pipe has zero buildup at it. There is some buildup in the flow line. My camera scraped a good deal of it loose. If you are using wipes, I would highly recommend not using them in flushable wipes or non-flushable. These older lines, just because of the rougher texture to them, are less forgiving to improper stuff. So I generally recommend people keep it to just toilet paper. Those items do snag up quite easily, and when they do get stuck, they stay stuck. They don't break down on their own. Anyway, that belly is far enough from the home. I'm also not seeing any backup evidence in the line anywhere. Where you get all your evidence of previous backups and recurring issues is at the top of the pipe. Unless the line was just cleaned out, you're going to have debris stuck to the top of the sewer line that indicates the line is blocked, it's filled up completely, and started to make its way back towards the house. You could certainly jet this line. There is some grease buildup in the line. There is some debris still remaining. My camera scraped a lot of it loose, but with the level of experience I have doing almost 25,000 scopes, which is something like 3-point-something million linear feet of pipe, the amount of homes that I see with this kind of arrangement that are 150 feet long and as old, this line was beautifully installed. You will be hard-pressed to find a brand new construction house with this same setup that would look that good. So the belly, in my opinion, is too far from the home to pose any high risk for blockages under proper usage scenarios, in my opinion, to require repairs. That doesn't mean that, you know, when you go to sell this house, you might not get some home inspector who bought a camera 2 weeks ago that wants to just nitpick every imperfection in the sewer line. But that's my 2 cents coming from someone who's been doing this a very long time. Done a lot of drain cleaning, and the cast iron's condition is in very good shape. There's no scale buildup to speak of. There's no channeling in the flow line. So, you know, my 2 cents on these things, unless that belly, if the belly were the first, 10 feet right out of the gate of the house, that would be a different animal. Because of the proximity to the home, if a blockage does occur, you have very little leeway between that blockage and the fixtures in the house. Versus something like that, that's something like 80 to 90 feet away from the home. If you blocked up there, you have to fill up an immense amount of sewer pipe to get back to the foundation of the house, which creates a humongous amount of head pressure and water weight. There are very few proper item blockages, like toilet paper, for instance, that can withstand that kind of head pressure. Not unless you got a bunch of other stuff in the mix, like a heavy grease buildup, things like that. So that's my 2 cents on that. The belly is not significant enough to warrant repairs, especially based upon its distance from the house. All the pipe here appears to be intact, both the cast iron and concrete. And by and large, now that my camera's gone through the line anyway, quite a clean sewer line. I will recommend jetting. There is still some grease buildup left over, and there is some debris further out from the house, but much of it has been removed by the camera. So not a dire scenario, but it would be nice to get the line cleaned up, bring it back down to base. There's just nothing left there. If you do choose to do that, I highly recommend you re-scope the line during the jetting process and post-jetting. That's how you want to do things to ensure that you've got everything clean, but sometimes you can strip rust off the cast iron in that process, and you want to make sure that no one's leaving piles of rust behind in the flow line. But being there's very little scale here, I don't suspect you're going to see a lot of that. So anyhow, line has adequate flow all the way to the main lateral connection. Line is functioning properly at this time.